Hi, it's Rich from Planet PE, and today we are going to have a look at levers. So it's one of those topics that typically you guys tend to find that a little bit more difficult, so hopefully today's video is here to help you. So as always, if you are brand new to the channel, please make sure that you follow us on social media, on Instagram, on Twitter, and on Facebook. But most importantly, please make sure that you subscribe and click that bell so that you don't miss any of the uploads. So levers, let's get cracking. So in the exams that I have marked as an examiner, I find that this is one of those subjects that students find incredibly tough to grasp, because if you don't kind of get the concept of what a lever is, it becomes quite tough. So let's start firstly with the three different elements that we have in a lever system. So they are made up of the fulcrum, the load, and the effort. So the way you're going to draw them is that you'll have the fulcrum as a triangle, you will have the load typically as a square or a rectangle, and the effort is going to be an arrow, which is either going to point upwards or downwards depending on the class of lever that you are talking about. So we've got our triangle, we have our square, and our arrow. Now, when we look at levers, what we've got to understand is that in different parts of the body, they are doing slightly different functions, but all of it is about movement. So every single lever is going to have some sort of movement going on, and that's where we need to try and focus on in that next part. So there are three different categories of levers, and quite simply, they are a first class, a second class, and a third class lever. Now, what makes each of the levers different is the position of the fulcrum, the load, and the effort. So for instance, if we use this terminology all the way through, where we say 1, 2, 3, F, L, E. Now if you look at what I've put on here, that means that the fulcrum is going to be in the middle on a first class lever. On a second class lever, the load is in the middle. On a third class lever, the effort is in the middle. Now what that enables us to do is that we have these different advantages, or we call a mechanical advantage, with each of the levers. So let's start by looking at each lever individually and see how that was going to be used in the body so that you can do the sporting actions that you're able to do in all of your wonderful sport. So let's start with the first class lever. So if you see the little GIF that is going on at the moment, you can see that in the middle is the fulcrum, and then either side of the fulcrum is the load and the effort. Now in the body, that is going to signify certain movements. So if you think about the neck joint, for instance, I've got all of my weight, all of the load of my face in front of here. But actually the fulcrum, which is the part that is going to be moving essentially, is in the middle, and then behind that I've got my muscles. Now, and a slightly maybe easier way to think about it might be when we look at the elbow. So if I think about my elbow, I've got my fulcrum here, so this is the part that is going to be moving. Now all those bits that you saw in like the seesaw, they're really the bones. So if I am going to do extension at the elbow, that is a first class lever. And the reason for that is that my tricep is this side, the fulcrum is in the middle, unless I've got a weight in my hand, then that is going to be at the other end. So we've got the fulcrum in the middle, which makes that a first class lever. So extension at the elbow is a first class lever. The neck joint is a first class lever. And purely the reason for that is that the fulcrum is in the middle. Now, when we see people run, so again, if you watch this little video, you'll see that when the foot lands, we then go into plantar flexion. So this idea that we are moving all of our weight and it's rotating around that fulcrum. Now, what we're seeing here is a second class lever. And again, the reason for that is that the fulcrum is at one end. This time, we've got the load in the middle, because your weight is all going through that load. So all of that load, all of that weight is going through the center. Now behind that is the gastrocnemius. So that is the effort. So typically in a lever system, the load is normally your mass, or potentially the things that you're moving, you're lifting. The effort is always going to be from a muscle. So where we're looking at this again with the second class lever, and again we'll show you that the lever here, we've got the fulcrum, we've got the effort, we've got the load. But on a second class lever, the load is in the middle. So where we've got our 1, 2, 3 FLE, second class, load is in the middle. So what that enables us to do is that we can lift all of our body weight on your gastrocnemius. So the fact that you can go on 1 foot and you can lift your entire body weight is because this second class lever is really, really efficient. And what we use in that is the term is it has a mechanical advantage, but we'll look at that towards the end of this video. So we then have a third class lever. So a third class lever has the effort in the middle this time. So as you see the picture again, it means that we've got the effort in the middle. One side we've got the fulcrum, the other side we have the load. Now with a third class lever, it has a bit of a mechanical disadvantage because we've got the effort in the middle and that is too far away, or further away I should say, than the load. So therefore it's going to be more difficult to move that weight. So when we think about the elbow joint, if we now move into flexion, then we've got the effort in the middle. And the reason for that is that your bicep actually attaches this side of the fulcrum. So again, remember the fulcrum we typically talk about as being the joint. So the bicep is attaching this side, which means it's in the middle. If I was doing a bicep curl, I've got the weight in the hand, I'm then bringing that towards me. So with a third class lever, it has a mechanical disadvantage because the effort arm is closer to the fulcrum than the resistance arm or the load arm. So that's the next thing we need to look at, is this idea of mechanical advantage. So how do we work out mechanical advantage? So mechanical advantage is the effort arm divided by the resistance or the load arm. So if you look at this diagram here, everything is measured from the fulcrum. So we've got a effort arm, which is going one direction. We've got the load arm, or some might call it the resistance arm, which is then obviously going slightly the other direction. So we're just measuring the difference. Now, if we think about a first class lever, the fulcrum's in the middle. So therefore they could be the same distance apart, but one could be closer or the other one might be closer. So if we're dividing the effort arm by the resistance arm, and by that we mean the distance, that's how we calculate mechanical advantage. So this is why you're able to lift your entire body weight on your gastrocnemius, because the effort arm is so much longer than the load arm because it's further away from the fulcrum. Now, a third class lever, sadly, always has a mechanical disadvantage because the effort arm is shorter than the load arm. So basically the effort is closer to the fulcrum than the load is. So that is really all you're going to get asked as far as the things about levers. So you're going to need to know, one, the position of the body, the movement that they do, and about mechanical advantage. So first class lever is extension at the elbow and the neck. A second class lever is plantar flexion, or just generally movement at the ankle. And a third class lever would be flexion at the elbow. So you've got 3 different movements there using different lever systems. And then we've also discussed about mechanical advantage. So the reason why you can lift all of your body weight on your ankle, but you can't lift it all on your elbow. So as always, thank you for watching, thank you for listening. Please make sure that you subscribe. And again, thank you to Ellie who gave us the request for this video. So if there's any topics that are coming up, if you've got any mocks coming up, please comment, because I'll start doing some live sessions if that is the case. And again, just make sure that you subscribe and keep following. Thank you very much, and I'll see you again next week.